So, a lot of people really seem to love my previous video essay, Mascot Horror is Not Dead, and it's evidently clear that most people really want me to make more of these. So with that said, let's talk about Garten of Banban 3. What is up, my faithful keychains? This is Roxas13keys here, and today I wish to discuss my personal review on the third installment in the peak of indie horror, Garten of Banban. While it's evidently clear that these games have some extremely mixed reviews, and how I was not a big fan of the first game, and I thought the second game was okay-ish, I wanted to bring our attention specifically to the third game, because if I'm gonna be honest here, some way, somehow, I actually really liked this one. Now, don't get me wrong, there's many glaring flaws and issues that should absolutely be addressed, and I'll definitely be talking about it. But if you know me, for most of my content, being more on the optimistic side, that's the direction I wish to go for when discussing this, as I believe it's healthy to have a view that isn't leaning too negative on topics. So with that said, let's begin this review of Garten of Banban 3. So, taking place directly after the second game, we're now down below to the Abyss, as Banban referred to it as. Once we're there, we're unable to use our drone since our high polygon remote is out of battery. So we look around and find our first one. And here lies our first issue I wish to talk about. When you find the second battery, you aren't allowed to pick it up until Banban is done talking to us through the speakers. He apologizes once again for hitting us and added that he's prone to violent instincts and locked himself in the surveillance room as he believes it's best for the two of us to never meet face to face. After this conversation, we are finally able to grab our second battery and use the drone on a set of buttons, which will open our first door, which brings you to a cafeteria. Once you're there, you may notice scribbles of familiar characters on the floor alongside crayons. And if you notice a prompt over the crayons, well, guess what? You can't pick them up unless you listen to Banban again, who lets you know you must have a pink keycard to access the cable car. Once you have collected the crayons, you must deposit them one at a time, and then you must dispatch a cleaner to scan the area in case you missed any oddities on the floor, which takes a while, so make sure you're thorough. Once you've done this, you are given your pink keycard, and on your way out, you'll see our blue spidery friend, Nab is watching us, and then hides away once we're too close. Banban will then tell us he knows someone who might help us find our players' children, and we must head to the aquatic sector. Now by this point, my dumbass thought I soft-locked the game, because it took me forever to realize there were keypads up on the ceiling of the cable car. So, what did I do? I literally jumped off the cliff and reset because I thought I somehow broke it. After that little incident, we proceed to slowly move our way to the aquatic sector, where the door to Stinger Flynn is currently locked. So we have to maneuver our drone to break some yellow glass to get the orange keycard. After this, we find the room where we meet our giant buddy Stinger Flynn. Once we're on the other side, we activate the communication kiosk, which awakens Stinger Flynn, voiced by Ferris, the other developer. He tells us how he's aware that we've been through so much to find our children, but then tells us he can't let it happen and shows us why. He hypnotically puts us to sleep and we dream of a beach that Stinger Flynn calls home, and talks about how he wishes to be free of the burden of consciousness, and just wants to live a simple life as a real, brainless jellyfish. He adds that he needs the children to achieve that and will do the safest of procedures and will keep one adult alive and sane to help the children go free, and tells us to leave this place and forget it exists. After this, we're in a flashback sequence from Stinger Flynn's point of view, where we are greeted with an evil version of Banban who's hungry for some good old pancreas. And now here comes another issue that a lot of people had, which was we must now replay the entirety of the canon minigame, but this time as Stinger Flynn. So after all that, we open the door out of this place where we meet Slow Celine, telling us we're not one of them, we're new, and we need to hide, and then proceeds to go Sonic the Hedgehog on us again. After that flashback, we wake up in Sheriff Toadster's room, where we must go through a fetch quest to collect 10 bucket criminals and place them in jail, which unlocks the locker, giving us access to the blue keycard. We use this keycard on a lily pad minigame where we must jump on a trail of lights to one side and then back, which opens our way out. I was very much confused on this segment for a while, as I completely missed the word jump. in the tips. So I just kept walking and not jumping, so it took me longer to figure this out. But after we leave Sheriff Toadster's room, we are warned by Banban that Nab is currently on the hunt, and we must deal with him first before going after Stinger Flynn. So we must go to the medical sector where Banban tells us he believes the reason Nab was aggressive is because he's lonely. So he has us begin procedure on bringing Nabnaleena to life. He goes on an extremely lengthy monologue on how to handle the procedure, but knowing me and my dumb ass, I can't keep up with too much information at once and proceeded to fuck it up over and over and over again. You need to choose the correct colors to inject the correct concentration into Nabnaleena 6 times, while you also use your drone on any lit buttons, and use some tongs on the tubes if they aren't green. This part was genuinely super difficult for me, as I could not, for the life of me, juggle through 3 separate things at once while trying to be fast about it. This part was seriously hell for me, but after enough trial and error, I got past it. After you have succeeded the procedure, you are given access to an audio disc. When you leave the room though, Banban literally has the audacity to tell you, I hope that wasn't too hard, which I feel was just a self-aware move, because I feel like that part was honestly intended to be difficult. But once you head back to the aquatic sector, you play the audio disc which calls Nabnaleena over, and Nab is finally no longer lonely. This was cut short, however, as you hear a familiar whale noise, the screen shakes, and you see Nabnaleena fleeing into Nab's room. And all you can find is Nab's lone party hat. Stinger Flynn then appears and tells you have overstayed your welcome, and hypnotically puts you back to sleep again. Now what happens next from here, I kid you not, was the most absurd and hilarious moment that I have ever witnessed in the entirety of this game and its series. You're in a dream segment where you wake up in a car driven by Stinger Flynn. Opila Bird is in the front seat. Banban and Captain Fiddles are to your left and right. Nab is outside following the car. You are lost in a desert trying to find the beach. Banban and Stinger Flynn are arguing. Opila Bird occasionally screams, all while you are listening to rap music on the radio by Rocket Music. And the dream ends with the car fucking crashing. You cannot make this shit up. This was quite literally my most favorite thing about this game. It was absurd, random, and just borderline hilarious. My initial reaction wasn't as huge, but once I watched the baddest play this game, and she just hammered down the fact we're in a car with Opila Bird over and over again, that realization of how ridiculous it is finally kicked in, and I was laughing so fucking hard that my sides were hurting like mad. I haven't laughed that hard in forever. So I give some kudos to the Euphoric Brothers for making me laugh so hard. After that fantastic acid trip of a dream, we're back in another Stinger Flynn flashback, where you must proceed to hit a series of buttons. This part honestly took too long for me to do, because eventually the buttons were moving way too fast for me to catch up, and they actually expected you to hit them. That part honestly wasn't fun to me at all. After that, we wake up in the Jumbo Josh lounge, where we meet Banbaleena again after she's been kidnapped by Jumbo Josh, brah, alongside the knocked out Nab. We and Banbaleena have no choice but to work together since the two of us are at an impasse. She explains that in order to not be caught, as we solve the puzzles, we must make sure everything must look unchanged whenever Jumbo Josh checks up on us. This part was another section of the game that took me way too long to figure out, even to a point where it was so confusing that I literally skipped the second puzzle and tried to do the third puzzle instead, and then proceeded to accidentally softlock myself. No, I am not joking about this. I tried using the orange blocks that are originally intended to jump to the other side as the blocks to solve the third puzzle. But upon having to sit down because Jumbo Josh was on his way, I left the orange blocks in the room and no other blocks to use. So, I softlocked myself and couldn't get back on the other side. And the only way to continue was I had to die and reset. Not really the best game design in all honesty. But after going through all of that, we got our next key card, and we and Banbaleena finally escape, completely leaving poor Nab behind. We then make our way back to the ground sector, and Banbaleena tells us she's heading back to class and takes the elevator back up. We then must make our way over to the progressive sector, where we must do some basic math involving Opila Bird, her eggs, and the newly introduced Tarta Bird. Once we solve the math problem, we meet a robot named Mr. Kebab Man, and we need to give him his costume. To do so, we must go through a series of padded doors, to then be greeted by our first ever boss fight, Tamataki and Kamataki, a giant two-headed hybrid of a turtle and a chameleon. This boss fight took me a while to figure out, because the written tips were too confusingly scribbled that I had no idea what I was looking at. So I died, quite a lot, to Kamataki's tongue and Tamataki's water balls. What you're supposed to do during this boss fight is whichever buttons are currently highlighted, you must have your drone hit it, so you can grab the firework that rolls down from the platforms above, and then place it on Kamataki's tongue, damaging it. And you must do this process 3 times. But one of the most painful things I ever had to deal with during this boss fight was the left platforms. I'm supposed to jump on the wooden platform to make it to the left side, but almost 90% of the time, I always missed the wooden platform, as it was just too far away. And I didn't think to jump over the fence that was closer to me either, because I assumed that there was an invisible wall. So what did I do? I abused the glitch, where there was a sliver of platform to land on, and just made my way over to the left side that way. But after defeating the boss, you can grab 2 party hats and bring them to Mr. Kebab Man, who has some pretty silly lines, being, hand over your pancreas, behave or get banned, and 3 stones with 1 bird. You then need to take him all the way to the other room where a baby Opila bird stands. If you try walking towards the baby, you'll get jump scared by either Opila Bird or Tarta Bird, who's waiting up above. So what you do is take Mr. Kebab Man over and activate the sound on his back to make the baby Opila Bird move, and you can grab them. This will open the green door, and you are being chased by Tarta Bird. Now before I talk about what you do next, I want to address another major issue I came across with this game. That being, if you ever die at this point, you must walk all the way back to the boss room, grab the party hats again, walk all the way back, and slowly move Mr. Kebab Man all the way to the baby Opila Bird again. And you have to keep doing this entire process every single time you die, which can get really, admittedly, frustrating. So now, what you need to do is once you've obtained your adorable little baby Opila, you must achieve high ground and land and interact with Tarta Bird to successfully tame him, which also means you have befriended Opila Bird in the process, and you return her baby. You then activate a keypad that doesn't really do anything aside from triggering a cutscene where you come face to face with Stinger Flynn once again, who, out of curiosity as to how everything was going our way, he finds out that Ban Ban has been guiding you, and adds that he's only giving you false hope, and only has one thing on his mind, that being pancreases! Who would have figured? He also learns that Ban Ban has a mode where he suddenly goes feral monster mode, and then we have our final chase sequence. Which, if I'm going to be honest here, this was another one of my favorite segments in the game. You are riding Tarta Bird while you are also teaming up with Opila Bird, and the two of you must take turns with opening doors depending on what color the light is, all while you are being chased by the hellish Ban Ban. The music they have during this segment is also so good and catchy. Granted, it's made by a royalty-free music channel, but I personally have no issue with that. It's very clear that this was some really obvious fan service, as they know evidently well that Opila Bird is what's making them the money with this game, so of course they had to put in a moment where you befriend Opila Bird for the fan service. Bird up. Once you are done with the chase, Ban Ban tells you, the smell of your pancreas will always draw me to you. Which, I know it was supposed to be scary in that moment, but in reality, that was honestly just too funny to hear. But what's that? A new challenger approaches! Ban Ban's hunt was cut short as Jumbo Josh comes in to fight, bruh. We watched them duke it out from above, and when Jumbo Josh was ready to finish off Ban Ban, Stinger Flynn enters the ring, trying to get them to stop fighting. Jumbo Josh was all like, nuh-uh, and dukes it out with him too, causing Tartabird to fall down upon impact. And Opila Bird jumps to follow her husband. The game then ends with us and the baby Opila Bird taking the elevator down to find the sheriff. And then the end. Wishlist a sequel here. Bird up. Okay, now that I have unnecessarily summarized the entire game, what are my final thoughts? Personally, I think this was quite possibly the best installment we've gotten so far in the Garten of Banban lineup. I really liked Stinger Flynn and his wise personality. Almost reminds me of those old SFM FNAF animations where Golden Freddy was wise, had a deep voice, and had powers. And then I really liked other sections of the game, like the ridiculously hilarious car scene, and the fun as hell Opila Bird race at the end. But, unfortunately, the game admittedly has more cons than it does pros. What I honestly didn't like about this game is that this one, especially in comparison to the second game, genuinely felt extremely forced to last longer than it should have. Because when I first played this game, I spent almost 3 hours trying to finish it. There were so many things after another that felt far too difficult to figure out on the first go, and would require more self-learning to figure out. Some things were even prevented from you until Banban was done talking. Whenever I would die, I would respawn too far back, making me have to go through a lot of tedious walking. I understand why this ended up happening though. I understand that it's because the Euphoric Brothers were too scared of people speedrunning and refunding the game. But at the end of the day, that's entirely up to the customers to make that decision for themselves. If the devs are watching this, you should have really focused more on making an enjoyable experience for both players and yourselves. The way the game is currently padded out with absolutely difficult extended segments, it just feels like the higher priority was to avoid the speedrun refund challenges, rather than trying to make this game an enjoyable experience. I really have tried to enjoy this game. I really tried. And for some of it, I did enjoy this game. I especially loved that car scene. And I think that's the direction the game series should start taking. Be more satirical and self-aware, much like Baldi's Basics is, instead of trying to make it too serious like Bendy and the Ink Machine or Poppy Playtime. The Euphoric Brothers, I can see hidden potential in your game, and I think there's more room for improvement here. One thing I highly recommend is spending more time on your game instead of putting a stressful 1 to 2 months to finish it. I commend you for being able to get games done that fast, especially within the span of 2 years of that non-stop pattern. I'd be burned out trying to do that. But the one thing that suffers when you do this pattern of game releases is the quality of life and the care put into these games. And so I truly hope you take my criticism to heart as hope to improve your games. Well, with all that said, I enjoyed the game, especially in comparison to the first two, but there's absolutely some glaring flaws, and this game could definitely use some more improvement and polishing. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I spent quite a while writing this whole script, so I hope it was worth it. I want to take this time as well to thank you all so much for the positive reception you've given to my Mascot Horror Is Not Dead video. That was the first time ever I've done the whole essay video format, and so I was surprised to see how much people loved it and how they hope to see me make more of these kinds of videos. And please, if you have any suggestions for what other Mascot Horror games I should talk about in this kind of format, by all means, let me know in the comments below. With all that said though, now is the time to end the video. As always, my faithful keychains, thank you all so much for watching. Please remember to subscribe to the channel and click the bell button to be notified of all videos that I upload. Make sure to leave a like, comment down below, and share this video with your friends and family. That really helps me out in the algorithm. Make sure to follow me on my Twitter, join my Discord server, and follow my Tumblr for some future updates and community interaction. Make sure to buy my merch on my TeePublic page. Make sure to click the join button down below to become a part of the Faithful Keyring support and earn a badge, custom emojis, early access to upcoming videos, and shoutouts once every upload week. And lastly, my family has a fundraiser on GoFundMe to raise enough money to move out of our old house and into a new and better home. We have currently raised $835 out of the goal, which is $155,000, who would truly mean a lot to her to donate, all of which helps me out a lot. And until then, this has been Roxas13Keys, signing out, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace out!